Yes.
Okay, we're talking to John Flansburgh from They Might Be Giants. I think they're giants. You're going to have a look at it to see whether you think they're giants.
All right.
They might be giants. Okay, Johnny, how did the band come together a lifetime ago? In 25 words or less? No.
Well, it's funny about, the truth is like we've been in this band forever. The band's been together for 42 years,
Oh.
but John Linnell and I met each other decades before that. We actually were childhood friends. We went to grammar school together, but he is a year older, so we didn't really become close friends until high school. So we were teenagers, and we had a good friend named Jimmy Mack, he was a really charismatic guy, and he was very into the rock scene, the local rock scene in Boston and the New York rock scene. And he exposed us to a ton of what would now be called punk rock music, new wave music, and really kind of turned our head around with this stuff because it was all very new, Like I remember sitting in Jimmy's attic with his like little stereo and listening to like the very earliest, I'm not sure what single it was by the Ramones, but it was just a 7-inch record of the Ramones. And we just listened to it over and over again going like, is this real? Like what, this is crazy. And so there was a lot of like musical discovery that John and I and our little peer group in high school went through together. And it was very formative and it was very inspiring. And it kind of, I didn't even think it was a given that any of us would end up being musicians. It was really that kind of thing. It just like pulled us in.
And how do you keep together for this long? What's been happening for the past?
Well,
how has it been going up and down, or has it been pretty constant?
Well, there have been a lot of ups and downs, but I think the truth is we've had a very I think compared to a lot of other bands it's been very steady on actually. When I think about other bands situations, we've always been sort of self-defined. So we've always been a little bit left of center, and we've had all sorts of different kinds of success in different fields, but none of it has overwhelmed us or defined the band or tied us to a moment or tied us to a thing. It's like a lot of bands, sometimes success is the hardest thing on your career because it kind of sets you and freezes you in a time or freezes you in a musical moment.
A lot of people after a lot of things they pull from left, right, and centre. How about the changes over that time? Just quickly, like the changes from recording on rocks and sticks, moving to now streaming and all the digital stuff.
Well, it's definitely. Everything's changed. My first job, I worked in a record store. We sold 8-track tapes. That was like the big thing. And, they're not doing that anymore. But the truth is, it's always changing. I think in some ways, it's infinitely better. I think it was not a meritocracy before. I think it's important that people remember, like, the major, people get very misty-eyed talking about like record companies and the good old days when there was money in the music industry. But, it's always been weird. It's always been a weird scene. There's always been a tremendous amount of terrible music. It's always been a ton of stuff that just seemed like it was in the way. And there's always been like these kind of narrow countercultural threads that were really interesting and exciting and fun. And there's that's still happening. There's all sorts of great stuff happening.
The one thing that's been constant is the labels have always been criminal. So that's something that still stands true today. Or been nasty. Let's say not criminal, but they've been nasty. How would you describe your current sound, and how's it changed over the years? Has it, or is it the same as what you were doing?
I think a lot of times we're trying to figure out how to kind of refine our sound, but at the same time, from the very beginning, we really started as kind of a like a, people talk about garage rock bands. Like I think we were kind of like a bedroom band. Like we did a lot of home recording, and a lot of our best ideas, we kind of realized, I think we were kind of reminded over and over again that a lot of our best ideas were a little bit more fragile than, I don't know when like the guy who wrote like Louie Louie, if he thought like this is the most portable song ever, like, you can't fuck this up, it's like, it's just totally rock solid, impossible to diminish kind of musical statement. A lot of the things that we were interested in pursuing were kind of fragile and kind of like, just like in a little bit indefensible and I guess because of the way we recorded, we were often trying to figure out ways of just like bringing in home recordings into the big studio and saying like, we just want to hold on to this little sound that we got here. Or like I recorded this vocal through a weird microphone and it sounds kind of weird. And I'd like to figure out how to make it sound like this. And I mean, we were always stuck in demoitis. Like we would demo these songs, and I don't think we were wrong. Like we were like, the best thing is the demo is the coolest thing we've got. And we just tried to stick with that spirit. Like we tried to sort of hold on to the rough edges. How much we've evolved as a band, it's sort of hard to say. Like maybe we should have evolved more. I mean, we've brought in a lot of musicality that was in our background. I mean, we were growing up, we were fans of a lot of kind of like art rock impulses. Like there's definitely some, Frank Zappa in there. There's definitely some, even like, I think even Steely Dan, like a Steely Dan, which was a band that like, I was much more interested before punk rock came along. And then I think there was something about them that really I pushed away when the new wave era happened. But, that kind of musicianship, that kind of, I mean, we write songs and we've written a lot of songs, and the more you write songs, the more you want to pour into it, the more you want to get out of it. So that's kind of where we're at. I think we're a little more evolved, for better or worse. We might be a little more filigreed.
Okay. Your latest single, Lazy, was released a few months ago. What's that all about? It's just, your classic 100-year-old Irving Berlin cover. It's a total banger. We did it for this radio station in New York City called WNYC, which is, in New York, it's kind of like what The Guardian is in London. Like it's a very important cultural outlet. A lot of people in New York City really kind of, they track the political shows on that radio station. What's funny is before we started this interview publicly, we were having a conversation about how much we both hate Trump. And in New York City on the public radio, New York City is a very liberal city. They have talk shows every day, people talking about everything that's going on in the world. But people are very respectful of Donald Trump, considering what an outrageous character he is. He's really like pushing the thresholds of. Because he was president.
Yeah, but because he was president and because the station is a very important outlet. It's one of the biggest stations in New York City.
So it's mindful of their fans, their audience.
Yeah. So they kind of keep a lid on it. Even though they could easily be just preaching to the choir. I mean, they could be more MSNBC than MSNBC is. But I was driving up to Boston, which also has, a very big public radio outlet. And it was very interesting to hear because up there, they're even more liberal, they're just as liberal or maybe even more liberal, but they just like let it rip. They're just like, it's so funny. Like it's very impolitic, they're just like, people are just raging, letting their, lefty freak flags fly. And it's the difference is very interesting to me because.
They're a bit further than MSNBC.
Yeah.
Is there a new album on the drawing board?
We have a new album pretty much in the can. We're like looking at sequences. We're trying to figure out if it's good enough as it is, or we need to do a little more work. I've got to get to work on an album cover. We've got a live album that's finished called Beast of Horns that should be out in like a month. That kind of captures all the filigreed stuff I was talking about with this horn section. We're on tour with a 3-piece horn section, so it's an 8-piece band. So it's really it's really cool.
What are the
Triceratops horns. Well, we're working with this trumpet player, Mark Pender, who's very famous. He was the trumpet player on the Conan O'Brien show. And, a lot of people saw his face turning red as he was hitting some crazy high note for, years and years on the Conan show. And the other guys, Stan Harrison was a big session musician in New York for years and years. He's an incredible saxophone player. He actually plays on Let's Dance by David Bowie, among a million. Yeah, that's Stan. Dan Levine's the trombone player, and he's been in a million Broadway shows, and he's played with us for forever. We've been working with Dan for 20 years, but we can finally afford to take them all out on the road, so it's really fun.
How did you get to horns? From a traditional band sort of process.
Well, it's in a way, if we have like a song, it's a great, like, horns are kind of like a great sort of booster rocket that and.
So everyone would like to take the Philharmonic with them, but they go out with their, guitar, bass, and whatever. And what you had the opportunity of doing was adding some more depth to whatever it is that you did. So you did so.
Yeah, I think we use the horns in a lot of different ways in the show, and I think that's actually like it's a compliment to their versatility, but it's also like it's a way for us to do a lot of material. There's a lot of repertoire that we couldn't do without the horns. Like there are a lot of things that we do, like even a song like Dr. Worm. Dr. Worm has got a huge horn chart on it, and having the real horns there it is powerful. It's just it's so much fun. Yeah.
I was going to say, is it a part of when we were talking at the start beforehand, a bit about consciousness and stuff like that. Is it a part of the adventure, doing this extra, the horns and all this sort of stuff? Is it like you guys, continuing to adventure, risk, do all that sort of stuff?
Well, it lets us do a lot of things live. It lets us realize a lot of kind of production ideas that we've had in the studio and bring them to the stage in a really full-blooded way. That's the big advantage, is that it's, sometimes the horns are actually just reproducing like a synth part, or they're just, they're doing some other texture, some other layer that's not necessarily a horn part on a record. But it's just a whole other level. It brings a whole other kind of color and musicality to what we're doing.
Everyone's in on it. Everyone agrees.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I mean, they're great musicians, and everybody's sort of sitting up a little bit straighter. Like it's just a big party. It's totally fun.
All right, let's talk about the new tour in October. You're playing your album Flood, which you brought out in 1990. I know you're playing tracks from other albums as well, but why did you decide to focus on playing that album in full?
Well, it was kind of an accident. We actually didn't have an album to tour on finished, and we were just going to book some shows in the United States. And I guess originally we booked like 20 shows, and it was like, well, what can we do that's like easy? And we had done these shows in Australia probably a decade ago, where we're trying to figure out how can we play 2 nights in Australia so we can hang out a little longer and maybe see some stuff. It's like, what if we did like second nights and we'll play Flood and in a small club. We'll play a big theater show and just blow it out. And then we'll play like, for the front row, we'll do like a club show and play Flood. And we'd done that, and that was really successful. And then so like before COVID happened, right a month before COVID hit, we booked these shows, and we were like, we'll just do Flood. We'll just say they're Flood shows, and we'll play all of Flood, and we'll do another hour of stuff, and it'll be fun. And the response was exponentially greater than anyone was anticipating. This was not, and I guess like this is the era that we're living in now. It's like there are a lot of people. Listen, we have an entirely new fan base. There are tons of people, coming out to our shows who weren't even born when Flood came out, and you tell them like, oh, this band that you discovered a couple years ago, who have like, a 40-year-long career, they're going to be performing their people's favorite album from beginning to end. Like, it's believe me, like you can be in a band and still be so out of touch with your own draw. Like I had no idea. I mean, we had some idea, but we really didn't know how different this response would be. And so we put these shows up for sale. Everything sold out instantly. I mean, like 25 shows or 20 shows sold out overnight. Our booking agent is like, hey, I could add another 20 shows and this would be like falling out of a tree. It would be the easiest sold out shows you could ever do. And let's just do it. And so we booked like 45 shows, and it's like, oh God, this is like a cakewalk. We don't have to learn anything, just go out and play these songs that are, it's a crazy album anyway. There's all sorts of things on it besides, it's not just Birdhouse in Your Soul. And so it's like, this will be fun. We go out, we're out on the road doing these sold out shows, and it's totally a blast. And then it's like, boom, COVID hits. And all of a sudden we've got to reschedule like 30 shows.
Oh my God.
And I mean, and it was just like over and over, like the year, the days are falling off the calendar, and we're just trying to keep it all going and keep love alive and not have these shows I cannot believe we rescheduled these shows like 4 times, but we got them all off the charts and all off, we finished, we did it all. And then we brought these shows to the UK and Australia.
It's 9 o'clock.
And then I got hit by a car.
Oh my God.
We finally finished it. So I got hit by a car, and it totally fucked up my health. Yeah.
How bad?
So
injured?
Oh, I was in the hospital for a week, and I was bedridden for 2 months, and so we've never canceled shows or rescheduled shows or had to even think about it. So all of a sudden it was like this 1-2 sucker punch, and but we're finally coming back. We're not, it's going to be great.
Well, I'm glad you recovered. We wouldn't be having this interview. If you what are you particularly looking forward to this tour?
Well, I'm looking forward to it all. It's we've got a bunch of these shows are sold out. They've added a whole bunch more. They're grabbing all the money. They want to make it happen, but it'll be fun. It's going to be fun. It's just listen. The truth of the matter is, Australian audiences. I don't know if people from other places talk about this, but like Australian audiences are really demonstrative. Like they're really vocal. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Maybe I don't know. Maybe people, think that's impolitic to say it or something, but it's. I mean, I remember like the very very first shows we did in Australia. I mean, we were playing in clubs, but like before we went out, we were backstage, and there was just this like. It's like, what's going on? It's like all these people on the stage, like pounding the stage with their fists, and it was coming through the microphones, and it was sort of like coming through the PA. It was really crazy.
John, we're just convicts. What do you expect? Don't expect too much.
You say that.
We're pretty primal. Okay.
Well, I personally, we're pretty primal too, and I really enjoy it. It's an easy fit.
Look, at its base, if we talk consciousness, at its base, everything that's inside everyone is the same in terms of, because we're all quantum. We're all connected. So that's the same. So when we connect in that way, we all fit. But because we're in this thought age where all we do is think, and we think what's next, what's next, what's next. These thoughts whack us, take us far away from harmony, and that's we keep on pursuing things that just aren't necessary. Anyhow,
we're all Angus Young.
we're all Angus Young. No, they haven't been the same since Bond died. That's 40 years ago, have they?
John Linnell saw Bon Scott at the Paradise Club in Boston in 1976.
He was unbelievable. And when you think
I did not get to see that show. I almost saw it. I can't believe I missed it.
they were unbelievable. And when you think he's been doing it for 40 years or 35 years, and everyone still says it's not the same since Bond. I mean, Bond did it for 5 or something or other, or for a short period. But that's the thing, people, and you'd appreciate this. Freddie and Hutchins and all these sorts of people that are out front. They're Kurt. They're more than just performers. They're like Gandhi or something or other. They're people that actually can move, make a movement. People can follow.
Right.
And so I think to some degree, when you say they might be giants, I mean, you guys do the same thing, but maybe to a smaller group or whatever.
Oh, that's a very generous thing for you to say.
No. I think it's if you asked your fans, they would be saying something similar to what I'm saying to you about Bon and all that sort of stuff. It's just that those other people, the media have got onto them over a period of time. They died early, they died young, they became sort of martyrs to their cause sort of thing to some degree. Most of those people, all of them, Freddie, bloody Hutchins, everybody, all of them died young. And so ultimately their story becomes bigger. But we're all brothers in this sort of universal thing. We're going to be here forever. Let me, I've got some questions that are pretty quick or quicker.
Sure. Rock me.
If you could perform with any music artist alive or dead, just after what we said, there you go. If you could perform with any music artist alive or dead, you choose and why?
John Linnell. Because, the truth is, it's like the way we get to work together, it makes, I feel like it makes me like the best musician I could possibly be. I feel like he, what he draws out of me is really amazing. Like he makes me brave. He makes me braver than I would ever be on my own.
I applaud that answer and I accept that answer, but I'm going to say pass John, because I'm trying to get you to
well,
devolve.
I mean, I have to say, like, maybe this is a recessive trait in performers, but I've shared the stage with Elvis Costello. Elvis Costello was a very formative influence on me. I saw his first show in London, and that was a real life changer. But the truth is like, as much as I love Elvis Costello's music, I don't feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't know how to collaborate with him. I wouldn't know how to. I think, it's like, I don't know. I want to answer the question.
That's enough. John's enough, because that's enough.
Okay.
I don't want to push you any further than.
Okay.
And that's
okay.
It's a great answer. I think it's a great answer. So it's not a bad answer or anything. I think in this media age, we're looking for someone to sort of say, Elvis Presley, because it sounds romantic. What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Craziest thing I ever did. I was hitchhiking across the United States.
That's crazy.
I was in California, and friends of mine convinced me. I was convinced to go spelunking with total strangers. we walked into a cave. I'm not sure where it was. It might have been in Santa Cruz, California, but I'm not positive. But in front of the cave was a sign that said, "Do not enter this cave. It is not safe. It is not monitored. No one will come to find you." And we did it anyway. And we had no lights. We went in with candles, the precariousness of getting into this hole was so total. And then once we were down inside it, climbing out, it was so circuitous. It was absolutely unclear which way to go.
That's like death defying.
It was the dumbest thing.
That's unbelievable.
There's part of me still like tightens up just thinking how stupid it was.
What's the one topic you can talk about for hours? Everything, obviously, but
I could talk about like the history of recorded music forever.
Really? That's interesting. So recorded music is everyone's music, not just yours. So it's interesting that you take that sort of a look at things. A lot of people.
I love sound and I love recording and I love.
Like bricklayers don't like going home and building brick fences. So because you play so much music in normal, to review it and to be a part of it sounds like it's an interesting sort of take.
But then again, like maybe if you were a kid and like all you wanted to do was like build things with bricks, like becoming a bricklayer wouldn't be such a bad thing.
I'm a talker, so I talk to everyone.
There you go.
No matter what. So, everybody that I talk to says at some stage in the conversation, I've got to go now. So, can we?
Right. Well, just to fill in the rest of that thought, when I was 10 years old, I bought a tape recorder, and I was as interested
What state were you born in?
I was in Massachusetts, outside of Boston, Massachusetts,
Boston.
And I have to say, like, I was as interested in recording as I was in music. I was really kind of obsessed with audio recording.
Wow. And how old are you? Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 64.
64, so 2 years younger than me. So you're born in 60. So you bought this thing in 70 or around 70.
I bought a 3-inch reel-to-reel tape recorder, and I just went, as it was battery operated. I just went around with a little microphone, and I would record everything.
Steven Spielberg ate your heart out. Was it?
Yeah.
Was it? I don't know what happened to you guys. We got color TV in like 74. Were you still black and white, or were you color over there, or?
Oh, it was. My grandmother had a color TV, but my parents didn't get a color TV till the 80s.
Wow.
We didn't get a second TV till the 80s.
Wow. What's the thing you like most about you?
Nothing. I'm totally filled with self-loathing.
Really?
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah. So, I'm a people pleaser.
So you've got to You've actually, seriously, because you're actually, the way we communicate what you do and the way you go about it and music and all that sort of stuff.
I'm a self-actualized person, but and I am, as they say at recovery places, I'm definitely a people pleaser. I'm pretty insecure in a lot of.
I can fix all that. All right. All you have to do is subscribe. That's all. Go read the book and then subscribe, and I can fix all that. I'll come over there and live in the tent out the back, and all you do is whatever you've experienced up to now will be experienced hyper once I get through with you.
Fantastic.
Okay. Seriously, I could do all that, but you have to. I'm going to start a podcast soon, and if you like it, I'll come over and I'll do some of that stuff.
All right.
Favorite. These are some favorites, and then we'll finish off with one question. Favorite album?
My favorite album. There's a set of albums that I listen to a lot over and over again. It's hard to say which one of them is my favorite.
Well, can you name two?
I love Blossom Dearie. I love Sammy Davis Jr.
The end.
I love Dusty Springfield. I don't know. Maybe Dusty in Memphis might be my favorite
Wow,
album.
Dusty Springfield. She was sensational.
Oh, she's great.
That's unbelievable. So
I have a huge collection of Dusty records.
So again, you start this thing at 10 and you start recording and all that sort of stuff, and a lot of those old sort of memories, are what you connect with. I can tell you from a conscious point of view, I've done the same thing with, I can't remember the TV shows, but I got into this, a couple of years ago, watching an old 50s TV show where they had the panel and, the guy came in and wrote his name up. And
what's my line? What's my line?
And they had the guy that hosted it was the best. He was the pillar of virtue. He did all the and they had it was just an amazing show. So I just kept watching it for that for this feeling experience of these people going on and their actual connection and all that sort of stuff. And so I don't think we don't do as much of that anymore because it's all visual and effect and all that sort of stuff. So we don't have enough time to actually stop.
But there was a member of the panel of What's My Line.
Yeah. She got murdered.
No. The fella who he believed in like orgone energy.
Who was that? Not the guy, the publicist.
He also is in, I believe he's in Rosemary's Baby. He's a curious guy. Like, let me see if I can find.
And he was a regular panelist.
He was a regular panelist on What's My Line. So Bennett Cerf was the publisher. He started Random House. He was on the panel.
He was great.
But
he knew everyone. I knew everyone.
But the name, I'm looking for the name of this guy. Was it on What's My Line, or was it? Maybe he was on To Tell the Truth. Maybe he was on To Tell the Truth.
Kilgallen was just an enormous celebrity back in those days. She had such a radio show had such a following, and because she was investigating JFK, they murdered her. Someone murdered her. So it was.
I heard about that. That's a very weird story.
It's a very weird story.
Hold on a second now here. To Tell the Truth. Top cast: Gary Moore, Kitty Carlisle. I have glaucoma, and my eye doctor he's like a real Park Avenue specialist. He's like really at the top of his field as an eye doctor, and he has 3 photographs on his desk. One is of him with the Pope, one is of him with David Letterman, and one is of him with Kitty Carlisle. Okay, Orson Bean. Do you know who Orson Bean is?
Yeah, I do.
He wrote a crazy book about like sexual energy. He's in Being John Malkovich, but he's kind of has a wild personal philosophy.
Look,
and it's worth checking out because it's some crazy shit.
What I found, I went on this, self-discovery tour years and years ago, and what I found was there's so much in the little stuff, like in the stuff that you don't really look at hard. Everyone looks at, all the major stuff hard, but everybody's got a story, and there's all these bits and pieces and all this sort of stuff, and life gets more interesting and adventurous rather than less. Old age is it's a myth. Favorite artist?
Favorite visual artist?
No. Favorite artist, as in music artist.
Musical artist. Well, let's see. if I open my, I can, let's,
And if you say John Linnell, I'm going to think that there's
no. I'm trying to figure out if I go to my,
you're going to look
like,
up
if I go to my
music
like
artists.
songs, if I go to my like songs, will it tell me?
Are you
how
telling
many-
me you're going to be prodded to find out what your favorite art?
I want it to be true. I want it to be, I was thinking if I just found whatever I played,
People pleaser, John. That's the people
whatever,
pleaser in you.
whatever, I want to be honest. And I'm just saying, like, whatever I play the most, wouldn't that be meaningful? Let's see. Liked songs. It's like saying what you like. It changes. Like I discover things.
I know
new things.
most people when I ask, I get the most solid, multi-million follower artists, and I'll say favorite album. They go, oh fuck, or I'll say favorite. Artist. They say, fuck, I can't answer that. No way. So
Well, listen. Like in the middle of COVID, I was like, I did a deep dive into music because everything was so depressing, and I listened to that Adam and the Ants record, whatever it was, the Wild West. The West. It was such a great album. That band was so great.
he was a dancer.
He was fantastic. Have you? Let's see. Have you ever checked out the group ESG? This is not my favorite group. I don't. What's the favorite? There's like I listen to music for very different reasons. Some it's like a discovery and an adventure. Sometimes it just makes me feel, like I listen to music for the same reasons that.
You know what I'm thinking about now?
What?
I'm thinking about Jack Nicholson on the stand, and instead of saying truth, I'm saying artist. I want your favorite artist. You want my favorite artist? You can't handle my favorite artist.
Yeah, I'm sure you can handle my favorite artist. I just have a hard time saying.
Your Honor, the defendant won't answer the question. Can you please come back to the question? Who's your favorite artist, John?
Ah, shit. The Beatles. The Beatles.
That'll
there
do.
You go.
The Beatles. They're again back in the day. Favorite movie?
Raging Bull.
Really? Are you a De Niro fan?
I am, and I think the photography, the way the photography is done, I love black and white movies.
I think his early stuff was momentous. I don't think his later stuff, was okay. It's not that it was bad or anything, but his early stuff was just The Deer Hunter and Taxi and all that sort of stuff. The Taxi Driver, all that sort of stuff was he was just something else. He was just.
Well, I'm talking specifically about the move. It's not just Robert De Niro. I mean, it's like a lot. There are a lot of good performances in it.
There was. Pesky was in that too.
Yeah, and he's chewing up the scenery. And the woman who plays his first wife is a really good actress. I don't know. It's a great movie. I mean, it's a great scary movie. But I love I just love the photography. I love any really well photographed black and white movie is interesting to me. Like, I don't know. Speaking of the Beatles, I love the way A Hard Day's Night looks. Last time I was in Australia, we had a day off and we were in someplace we were really far away from I don't know, for some reason we're not in a big town, and there was kind of
in New South Wales or Melbourne.
We were like I think we were like maybe like outside of Perth or something. There was like there was kind of nowhere to be, and I was just kind of stuck in this hotel, and I was watching TV, and this movie came on that was the movie was called It's Trad Dad, and it was like the weirdest, corniest movie, like with terrible acting, but insanely cool photography. The photography, like this incredibly crisp black and white photography done with so much attitude. And it turns out it was the movie that Richard Lester did and the cinematographer did right before A Hard Day's Night.
Oh my goodness.
And then the cinematographer from A Hard Day's Night went on to work with Stanley Kubrick.
Oh my goodness. That's a
So,
credential.
but like, this movie is totally lost to time. It's trad dad. It's like and if you can see it online, if you can find it on YouTube, it's a totally fucked up movie. It's like the editing techniques are amazing, but the actual movie totally sucks. It's like imagine doing A Hard Day's Night, but without the Beatles. Like it's like all the visual excitement of A Hard Day's Night, but with no center.
Yeah, yeah. Like I say, if you can, and this is what I would say to you if I was beside you, if you can just collaborate with the moment, you don't have to worry about all the things that you think about, because thought is it's just a waste of time most of the time. Thought that you lead is perfect. Thought that leads you is just wasted. Just forget about it. And that's the same thing with all the. If you think about Mandela and the jail cell, or people that bloody lived in Auschwitz, or people that live in palaces, there's no. You don't get anything from your doing. It's like, think of it this way: there's learning, then there's doing, and then there's being. So learning is like when you're born and you start and all this sort of stuff, and then you move into this doing phase, which is all measured. And if you're lucky enough, you get through that really quickly and get into the being phase. So the learning and the being phases, everyone's the same. In the doing phase, there's all this pursuit and challenge and I'm used, etc. So someone that's got billions and lives in palaces and all that sort of stuff, if they're not in the being stage, they're only in step 2. They haven't got to step 3. And that's the point that I would make. So basically, in the being stage, all you're doing is waking up and doing whatever it is that you want to do.
Are you reading Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind?
No.
Because that's a very Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind.
Well, I'll just say this just as an extension, and I'll cut it here because we could talk forever. But I've got a view that I've developed that's a from me through me sort of process, and so the from me stuff is all the anecdotal, personal stuff where you talk about, in the cave and, when I played and all the stuff. And that's interesting, and it can be really fun and funny and connecting, etc. But it's just about you. The through me stuff is where stuff, you just allow it to come through like you're a medium, and it's coming from source or God or whatever you want to call it. And so that Zen stuff you're talking about, we're all in the quantum, we're all part of everything. So we have access to everything. And so if you allow yourself to just stop and have access to that, there'll be stuff that comes through that you shouldn't know or you didn't know or whatever, and it'll sound exactly like something else. And when you think that something sounds like something, that's our connection, where I'm not talking to you and you're not talking to me. You're just having an experience with your source, and I just happen to be the vehicle to give you that prompt. And if you're open to it, well, then you take that prompt and you keep on. So this is the doing, this is observance. This is where we live. This is all the stuff that we do and measure and all this sort of stuff. This isn't that important. This is where you live. Look at me depressed is different to I'm depressed. So look at me depressed is like,
Right.
Look, it's like so you're basically embracing everything that happens. Anyway, that's just the view, by the way. Favorite place to visit?
I love, there's a whole set of U.S. cities. I love visiting Seattle. I love visiting Austin. I love visiting New Orleans, in part because I know where to eat in all those places.
I have been all over the world. That drive from San Francisco up to Hermiston or up to Oregon or Washington, there's no better drive in the world than that drive.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Mountain ranges, and you've got the difference between Europe is you've got bloody a city every 10 kilometres or 10 miles or something rather. You've got, restaurants and, you can fill up and you can connect and all that sort of stuff. It's beautiful. It's beautiful up there. So I agree with you about Seattle.
Oh, it's great. And yeah, those classic hard rockin' U.S. cities. There's something great about them. Not the really big ones, the kind of the middle-sized ones.
And you must have some great memories over the haul of gigs you played to a few people in some of those places that you were travelling across, probably early on.
Oh, there were some really weird gigs. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes, places that turned into real gigs, but they started out very humble. But yeah, it's a lifetime of weird gigs.
Having said that, favorite venue to play? If you look
The
up
Fillmore,
the news on
Fillmore in San Francisco is a really fun gig.
Yes.
Fillmore in San Francisco is like one of those gigs where it can feel as big as like you can feel like you're playing in Madison Square Garden, and you have all the energy of like a gigantic show, and yet like 5 minutes later you can feel like you're playing at like a club with 100 people. Like it's a very unusual vibe because I don't know what the capacity of the room is. It's probably 1,200 people or 1,500 people. I'm not sure. It's basically like a middle-sized theater. It's not like a big theater, but because it's laid out as just like a huge expanse, somehow it just kind of gets bigger and smaller and intimate and grand, and that vibe is very exciting.
favorite food?
I love all food.
All food.
I don't like licorice.
So you lied. You don't like it.
But I really like everything else.
Spice?
Love spice.
Favorite
There's this spice called Fly by Jing. They make this stuff called zong sauce. It's kind of like, do you know chili crisp? Have you experienced like this Chinese chili crisp, which I guess is like sort of Szechuan street food condiment? I've gone bananas for that stuff in recent years. Bananas.
favorite drink?
Gin.
Any particular?
I'm pretty agnostic. I mean, I don't like cheap gin, but regular Bombay gin is fine with me.
They may send you a case. Favorite person in history?
That would be great. Favorite person?
Apart from me.
Apart from John Linnell. Apart from you.
Apart from me. Now that you've, spoken to
Yes,
me.
now that I've got a taste. Favorite person in history? That's a really good question. I don't, I have to tell you, I am not a hero person. I'm not somebody who like wants to meet their heroes. I'm not a person who has heroes. I feel like human beings are very fallible, and I accept that. I don't look to people to be perfect, and I don't expect people to be perfect, and I wouldn't know. I don't know. Like Abraham Lincoln. I don't know.
Your mom? Your dad?
I love my mom, but like my mom is just as fallible as me.
No, but it's favorite. Oh no,
Favorite.
It's favorite person in history. They don't have to be. They can be.
Oh, I thought you were talking in history. I mean, in history, I don't know. I don't. I just listen. It's like, who are people's heroes? Like there's a million reasons to hate Winston Churchill. I'm glad he was there.
Sure.
But I mean, the more we know about Winston Churchill, the more he just seems terrible.
I think all politicians are probably quasi criminals, but we just don't know about it. But that's a different matter. But the people that
Well, those are the only historical figures that I know. I only know the politicians. I mean,
when you went on your self-discovery tours at different stages, when you were depressed or through COVID, and you're trying to follow people, you didn't find any books that you picked up that you followed that had a particular ring to them that sort of gave you some healthy respect for them or anything like that? Although this isn't the answer to the question because it wasn't supposed to be. We're supposed to be just off the top of your head sort of thing. It's not. That's not a really laboured sort of point. It's not all that important.
Yeah, well, I wish I don't want to fail the assignment. Like I would
Here's
love
the
to.
people pleaser again, John. The people
Well,
pleaser.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm just not good at this stuff.
All right. Maybe what I should do in that question is say, who do you like better? You know, Hitler, Gandhi, or John Lennon? You know, make it easier.
I guess I
If you
guess
say
I would go.
Hitler, I'm going
I
to
guess I would go with Paul McCartney. You know what's funny is that the 20-year-old me, I had a lot of problems with Paul McCartney, and now I have no problems with Paul McCartney. I love Paul McCartney.
I think age has helped him. I think because yeah, he's become more accessible. I think as he's got older. But I think it would have been interesting to see. They said that John was going to come out with a whole new range of music that he was just ready to sort of, pull out when they. So it would have been interesting if was still alive and the two of them were sort of, coming out with new projects as they got older. Because he must have been a pretty amazing sort of individual.
Yeah, but he wasn't as intuitive arranger as I mean, or maybe he was much more of a rudimentary kind of gut feel arranger compared to McCartney. McCartney had so many musical ideas. I mean, it was an incredible collaboration. It was just absolutely
And he
amazing.
lived a lot of them. I mean, Wings, and he like he had a lot of different periods of success. Of
It's
great.
interesting, Yeah, I mean, his career. Well, as they say in that there's a Beatle podcast that I love. What is Nothing is Real? It's a really great podcast. They just stopped doing it after a few years, but it was that one of the things they always say is like Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney's output is so much more interesting in retrospect than it was in its time. Like, there are there's a million great Paul McCartney albums to be rediscovered. And as somebody who lived through their release, I can tell you, like, nothing about them seemed that fascinating.
That's
But,
the other thing. The other thing is, you think about Michael Jackson. We're talking about Paul McCartney. Michael bought all his music and stuff like that. But if you're talking about living through things, when you talk about Elton John or Michael Jackson or all when the video age just started and these people came out with stuff that you just sit there and look at because you hadn't seen these things, these mini movies that they put together and all that sort of stuff. Being a music historian like you are, you probably do look back on the evolution of that sort of gear. You must have a healthy respect for Michael.
I really love Quincy Jones, and I've always been a fan of Quincy Jones.
The king.
His early stuff is so kooky because it's so commercial and so it's like it's overtly shiny. It's like his instrumental albums in the early '60s. Those are crazy hi-fi records with amazing arrangements, but it's almost like I mean, there's also some like really corny impulses in it that are just like hard to believe. Like it's actually very hip in its way. It's like somebody who understands, bebop, like hard bop, making music for the masses. It's wild.
Do you have a tattoo?
I have no tattoos.
No tattoos. Is that in trying to make sure that you don't upset anybody by shining something, upset the.
Never thought about it.
We have
Never thought.
we have actually there's two questions left and then that's it. Listen, we'll get through these last two questions. What's the best thing about performing to a live audience?
it's
Because you've done it a
it's
lot.
an absolute like it's just a thrill. Like it's a being able to like sing at the top of your lungs and kind of get all that energy into the world. It's totally fun.
And having them sing back to you. They had a great story about Sinatra one time when he was older, and he went out to perform. You probably heard it. He went out to perform, and he couldn't perform. It couldn't come out, and they ended up, singing the song for him in the auditorium, and
Oh, that's beautiful.
he went off and teary and all that sort of stuff. And so they said, I think someone stood up and said, you know, don't worry about it, Frank. We've got your back, or something like that, or whatever. And it was just a beautiful story. So I can imagine that, when you give the way you give, you just don't realize how many people you affect. And they're like, you're coming out to play to fans now that I guarantee you will have posters on their wall, play your songs all the time. If we'll try and speak to them outside the front. If we said, what's your favourite this, and I love this, and I've introduced and I saw him turn this and that, and John and all, and
Right.
it
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
on and on. And you sit there having your self-loathing moment, sort of thinking that that's the only
Well,
thing.
I'm not like advertising. But it's just,
No, but
people are.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying most people would probably do what you do because it happens to everyone pretty much all the time that they're not happy about something or other. But I'm saying the impact that you've had and you've scored some points. I think you can sit back and say, I've done my bit. And
Yeah, but the thing that's tricky about the performance is that it's ephemeral. There'll be a different band there tomorrow night. It's just
that's
like
right. That's right.
things
That's
move
right.
on. Things move on.
That's right.
It's a great experience, and it's great to have it wash over you. But
Change the t-shirt. That's all we got to do. Just change the t-shirt.
yeah,
Okay, this is the last bit. Having so much experience in the music industry and looking back on how you started the early days and the progress we've made with social media streaming, I'm not sure it's progress myself. What piece of advice would you give to an artist starting out? Like they're just starting out, they're going to see this video maybe if you allow us to put it out. What would they what would
every the rule books has changed 15 times since I started. There was so much common wisdom about how to run your career when we started out, and we ignored pretty much all of it and figured out how to get through the world and have a good time. And I guess when we started, we did have this notion that if we just did things that were interesting in the moment, that it would be hard to look back on the experience and not think we did the right thing. And that's a very specific way of kind of running your affairs. And you might bump into roadblocks very quickly. I mean, when people who aren't actually on stage talk a lot about liking artists because they don't compromise. They don't realize like playing an open mic is a huge compromise. You're dealing with compromising situations from the jump. Like as soon as you are doing anything in public, you're trying to mediate all sorts of things that you might not want to think about otherwise. I would just say, try to enjoy yourself as much as you can as you go, because too many people are just trying to figure out some big master plan. And, life is short, anything could happen. If you get some joy out of what you're doing in the moment, that's kind of all you can hope for.
listen? When you think about pursuits, it's like saying, think about chocolate for a week, and then I'll give you some, and you tell me, what the difference is. And basically, people live in their heads with their thought; they don't live in their bodies. And if you live in your body, it's just a completely different experience, especially to the degree that you get away from good and bad. Then because feeling sad is just the same as happy. So once you get into this place where you're just feeling, you just turn up to feel. And so if you're depressed that day, you understand that you're just depressed that day like it's raining. And you just put on a jacket, or when you do what you watch a movie, you don't work, whatever you do, rather than go around telling people I'm having a really hard day today, I'm depressed. That's like saying that's like having a shit and then taking it out and then carrying it with you and saying, look, I just had a shit and expected not to smell. Too far?
Okay.
I've gone too far. But I'm saying that's the point about this telling your problems. Really, there's no need. Just keep on moving forward and keep on walking. And like you say, keep on enjoying yourself. It's not
Right.
it's not to say that there isn't a science to selling and business, because there is. But you know, basically I say, and this will finish us off, but I say pick up collaborators and mentors along the way, because they're the people, trusted collaborators and mentors, because the collaborators you can have your adventure with, and the mentors can give you information that you can dismiss, but at least you get the information from people that have been there before. And if you can do that, I think you're halfway home, in my view.
I hear that. Yeah, right on.
Johnny,
Don't
that's
care,
it.
don't care about shit around.
What am I going to do with this? Can I put it out? Can I put the video out, or are you concerned?
Do whatever you want. It's all good. It's all good.
I'll put the video out and I'll share it with her. Can I share it with you to share, or you're not going to share it?
Oh, we
How
don't
courageous are you?
we don't usually post that kind of stuff, but there's a whole world of people who will post it.
All right, that's all right. I'll put it out anyway. It doesn't really matter because it's not numbers I was after. I had a really great time, man. I expected to turn
All
up.
right, great.
It's shit going on, and I expected to turn up for 15 to 20 minutes. It was a lovely chat. I really enjoyed myself, and we're both in the same party from a number of different perspectives. I will be trying to get out there when you turn up, so I'll talk to John, trying to do something at one of the shows or whatever. We'll try
All right.
some questions and whatever. So have a great
The pleasure was all mine.
No. Have a great tour, have a great trip, and have a great life. And when you need me, when I put out the pod and you need me, just yell out.
Okay.
I'll come on over and I'll we'll drink some gin together.
All right, terrific. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All the best, brother.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.